The first time I had the idea to write a play was during one of the occasional operations of the Israeli army in Gaza, where Hamas is firing rockets over Israeli cities, and the Israeli army and air force are bombing residential areas in Gaza. Normally, many of the casualties are innocent people that are just, since it's a residential area, the army wants to bomb targets of terrorists firing rockets, but also innocent people live around there and they get hurt. So I started researching the topic of aerial bombings, which I found really fascinating, mainly because of this relationship of the bombing and the bomb that I feel is based on blindness in the most optical sense, what you cannot say about other kinds of fighting, where it's more direct. And one of the things I found was a story about a Lebanese artist, Akram Zatri, who is more or less my age, I think. And he lived in Lebanon during the 80s, during the Lebanon War, what we call in Israel. It's a war in which the generation of my father, and my father included, were fighting in. And Zatri is telling, he had an exhibition in the Venice Biennale, where he's telling about a rumor in his village that the bomber, the Israeli bomber, the pilot, the bombing pilot, who was supposed to bomb his village, was flying over the village to the sea, refusing to bomb the village and dropping the bombs to the ocean. And I read that the actual pilot came to the Biennale, and it's a really interesting story. You can look it up and read about it. It's really touching, and it's a moment where this blindness is it's a meeting point, where art is a meeting point. That's something that inspired me a lot. So all these are topics in the play: refusal to obey commands of bombing, the relationship between art and the Western art world to artists from war areas, and this relationship, the optical perspectives of the bombing and bombed, where they actually never see each other. I don't think it's so much about language, but my hope is that my own background would not be too important, because I think it's very universal. I mean, it happens all over the world throughout the years, and I would like them I would like those questions to float. A question about art and war, about art as a meeting point between enemies. How can we agree to that way of fighting where innocent people are being hurt? What's most important to me is the level of the theatralness, the theatricality, the here and now of the performers in the time and place, of the performance as a channel in the whole piece, in addition to the story itself and the characters and the events that are taking place. So that's very emphasized, and that's what happens on stage. I think many directors that are working in device theater, for example, that's naturally the style of their productions, because they don't work with the text. But in my case, you have the performative aspect already interwoven in the text. I think the dialogue between a director, a writer, and a dramaturg can be really productive if there's trust. And in this case, we had you and Lily and I, we had close contact and throughout the process. And for me, it was, even though I was in another continent, I was just by talking to you throughout the process, I had so many insights into the play. And the questions that come out of the rehearsal process when the actors come along are very, especially in my kind of writing, are very crucial. So I think it's a very good dialogue, and it's very necessary.